All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving our praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Wachak I want to get double honors to our apostles and elders who get millstone, who rule well, and peace, blessing, and salutations to the whole elect Israel. And this is the brother Zakaria from the GMS Des Moines branch, coming again with another lesson on Joel, the third chapter. Breakdown. I'm going to go into it. Lord willing, is edifying. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 1. It said, the nations will be judged. Verse 1, it says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. So this would be tricky here because it says the Lord is going to bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. But that's not what it's saying. And I have a precept to show that that's not saying that. This is Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 1. And at the head, and it says, deliverance from captivity promise. So that's what it's saying. It says the word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, thus speaketh Yahweh power of Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, said Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, said Yahweh, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. So that's what it's talking about. The Lord is returning us from captivity, restoring us from captivity, and to put us back in our own land. But it's starting with this knowledge, which I'm going to get into. But I want to go back to Joel chapter 3 and verse 1. It said, for behold, in those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, so is the Lord returning us back from captivity, not bringing us back into captivity, but taking us from it, delivering us from it. So I'm going to go into this word bring again in the blue letter. And the Hebrew word here is shawab, and it means to return, to turn back. Right? Like we read in that Jeremiah. To restore, refresh, repair, to bring back. It says to reverse. So it's going to be a reverse. Once again, like the scripture talk about, the Lord going to put these curses upon our enemies. Like we went into captivity, these devils and these heathens is going to go into captivity. So it's going to be reversed to where the Lord is going to take us from captivity and put us on high. The Lord's going to put us back in our land. And it also says to rescue, right? Right here it says rescue in the Strongs. To rescue, recover, recompense. And that's what's coming. A great recompense is coming unto all these nations for putting their hands on the apple of the Lord's eye. But just showing in this verse 1 that this bring again is talking about the Lord returning us, is restoring us, is rescuing us from captivity. Judah and Israel, which is the southern, Judah and Jerusalem is the southern and northern kingdom. Judah and Israel, same. But the Lord is restoring the two sticks, even with this knowledge, starting with this knowledge. This Isaiah chapter 61, in verse 1, it says, the spirit of Yahweh power is upon me, because Yahweh had anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. And this is what the prophets are doing. We preaching good news unto our people. It says, he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and to the opening of the prison to them that are bound. And this is what we telling our people. I want to get this in the NLT, see what it says. It said, the spirit of the sovereign Yahweh is upon me, for Yahweh has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted, and to proclaim the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed. And this is what we're telling our people. The Lord is coming to free us from the hands of our enemies. Like it says in the Baruch, the Lord gave us over to the hands of our enemies, and he's the one that's going to take us from them. And the Lord is starting doing this through this knowledge. Say the truth shall make you free. So the Lord physically is going to take us from the hands of our enemies and put us in our own land. But it's starting with us coming back through this knowledge. This is Psalm chapter 85 and verse 1. It said, prayer for the Most High's mercy upon the nation. It said, to the chief musician, a song for the sons of Korah. Yahweh, this is the Lord. The nation is talking about the nation of Israel. It says, Yahweh, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. So the Lord is showing favor, and he's bringing us back from that captivity through this knowledge. It says, thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin. Salah. So just showing that that in Joel 3, in verse 1, the Lord is bringing us back from captivity, showing favor unto us and showing forgiveness to us, to his people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, through his prophet that the Lord have out there in the highways and hedges. So going back to Joel chapter 3. No, matter of fact, Salakia, I had another precept that I wanted to get for that verse 1. This Baruch chapter 4 in verse 36. It says, O Jerusalem, look about toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from the Most High. Lo, thy sons come, whom thou sentest away. They come gathered together from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. So it's through this word, and who's preaching it, who's teaching it? The prophets. The Lord say, comfort ye my people. Matter of fact, that's the one I meant to grab as well. So that's through this knowledge that we're being brought back. And once again, the Lord physically is going to bring us back into our land. This Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 1. The greatness of the Most High say, comfort ye my people, said Yahweh. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem and cry unto her. And that's what the prophets are doing. This is what we're doing. We speak it comfortably to our people. This is the good news. The Lord is showing favor. He has not forsaken us. They say, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem and cry unto her that her welfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she hath received of Yahweh's hand double for all her sins. So now, since we received that, and we at the end, we at the last of our ass whooping, the Lord is going to bring us back to our land. He's restoring us. So we're living in beautiful times because we're seeing a downfall of our enemies, and we're waking up all across the globe, being gathered through the word. This is Joel chapter 3 in verse 1. It says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, which it says Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them. When you go into the word plead, it means judge. There for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So this judgment that the Lord is bringing is for all these nations that took part on touching the apple of the Lord's eye. So when you go into this word Jehoshaphat, it is Yahweh Shaphat, which is Yahweh has judged. So it's the Lord's judgment. That the Lord is going to gather all these nations over there into the Middle East, which is Western Asia, the Persian Gulf, to judge them there. This is Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 5. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, power surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. This is another word for Esau, Edom, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So the Lord is finna judge, starting with Esau, Edom the head. The Lord gonna jack them up. This Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 1. It says the Most High's wrath against nations. Like we just read in Joel 3 and 2. I will gather the nations. It says, come near ye nations to hear, and hearken ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things. It says the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. This is why the Lord gathered them up. He's going to gather, it's leading to that. The Lord is going to gather all these nations up over there into the Persian Gulf to judge them. It says, in his fury upon all their armies, he had utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to the slaughter. This is about to be fulfilled. This is what's coming. Well, we know that the chip got to be implemented, the MOTB. But this is about to take place. World War III. It says, verse 3, it said, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountain shall be melted with their blood. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, that mushroom cloud. And all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree. That curve, you know, those nukes. And say, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, Esau, and upon the people of whom, Salakia, upon the people of my curse, to judgment. The sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Yahweh had a sacrifice in Basra, a chief city of Edom, in a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. This is that great sacrifice here in America. Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon. It say, for it is this is the point I want to hear, the main point I wanted. It say, for it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance, in the year of recompense, for the controversy of Zion. The Lord is doing this for what these devils has done unto his chosen. So the Lord is bringing his judgment unto them. For once again, touching the apple of the Lord's eye. For it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance, in the year of recompenses, for the controversy of Zion, Israel. So the Lord is getting ready to judge these nations for what they've done unto the Lord's people. This is Zephaniah. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, therefore wait ye upon me, said Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the praise. So we waiting on the Lord. So we got to be occupied of prophecies while we waiting. So we wait on the Lord to rise up to the prey, rise up to the enemy. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. And how the Lord going to do that? Through those nuclear missiles. And the laser beams from the so-called UFOs that you people call is the chariots of the Most High, Yahweh. So that's how the Lord is going to judge and plead. This is Second Ezra, and these are precepts I got for that verse 2 in that Joel. This is Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 20. It says, behold, said Yahweh, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Lebanus, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. Who's the them? His people, the Israelites. Verse 21, like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, the chosen people of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So will I do also in recompense in their bosom, thus said the Lord Yahweh. So once again, the Lord is going to judge these nations for what they've done unto his people. This is Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. It says, it said, thus said Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. I'm going to read that again. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And where did this happen? Here in America. And all that took them captives held them fast. We was in captivity in all these nations. It said, what nation had now had part of us spoils? of Israel. They refuse to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon, modern day Babylon. You know? And this is what's going to take place. So the Lord is going to plead our cause. He's going to fight for us. And I also had another one, just going into the Yahweh Shabbat, Yahweh's judgment. This Revelation chapter 16 and verse 16. It says, and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, which is Harmageddon, which is the valley of troops. And that's what the Lord is going to do. He's going to gather these troops over there into the Persian Gulf to judge them. So there's Joel chapter 3 and verse 3. It says, and they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. You know, and this was during, you know, even the transatlantic slave trade. You know, the auction blocks. You know, I'm gonna get this in the NLT as well, because it's gonna further explain. It says, verse 3, they threw dice to decide which of my people would be their slaves. They traded boys to obtain prostitutes and sold girls for enough wine to get drunk. You know, and this is what these fucking devils did unto us. You know, Deuteronomy 28 and 68. It says, and Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto their enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you. And when you go into the word body, it means redeem. The only one that's going to redeem us from the hand of our captivity is Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, because he's the one that brought us in it, because our disobedience. But the Lord is bringing us back into Egypt again with ships. And how did the Lord do that? Through the transatlantic slave trade and those different slave routes. We were scattered across the four corners. You know? And then I'm saying, because when you go into the word Egypt in Exodus, it's mentioned that Egypt is bondage. So the Lord bringing us back into bondage, back into captivity. So going back up in verse 1 of the Joel, we are telling our people that the Lord is about to turn us, he's restoring us back from that. Right? Verse 4, it says in Joel chapter 3, it says, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? They can't. And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. You know? And this is talking about them fucking Africans, man, them Canaanites. You know? Because they'll say, oh, your people sold you into slavery. That's not true. They're not our people. You know, and I got my Compact Bible Dictionary here. When you go into the word Ham, because when you go into the word Zidon, it's basically he's the son of Canaan, which he was a son of Ham. So this is in the Compact Bible Dictionary. It says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Boom. So these are not our people. So when we fled into Africa during the Roman persecution, these fucking Hamites, these Canaanites, gave us over unto the enemy, which I'm going to get into. Let me grab Amos. This is Amos chapter 1 and verse 9. It said, thus said Yahweh, for 3 transgression of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. Thus said Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, And for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, this fucking devil. It said, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. So, reading in Joel chapter 3, and 3, 3, 4, 5 is all going into us being sold into captivity. The translated slave trade, these nations ruled over us, even Daniel, the 7th chapter, us being in captivity after captivity after captivity. But verse 5, it said, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things. So these nations spoiled us. They took our gold, our silver, took us captives. Even in Rome, you had the Ark of Titus. They raided our temple, took our treasures, robbed our treasures, etc. This just going back, because that's verse 5. We have verse 5 now. So I got precepts for that. It's Malachi chapter 3 and verse 16. It said, then they that fear Yahweh spake often one to another, and Yahweh hearkened it and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, said Yahweh of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. So just showing that we were those jewels that they took captive, those gold and silver, and not just our treasures at our out of our temples, but us as a nation, us as a people. We're the Lord's jewels. This are Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 1. It say, how is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter? So just showing that we were that gold and that silver that was taken captive. And like I mentioned earlier with that Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 8, it says, for thus said Yahweh of hosts, after the glory had he sent me unto the nations which spoil you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. And I also looked in the chat GPT. I asked them, what was that? The apple of the Lord's eye. And it says the apple of his eye is a figurative expression showing how precious and protected the Lord's people are to him. But that's what I wanted. They're showing how precious, that precious things that's precious is like gold, silver, things of that nature. So we are precious unto the Lord. So we were that gold and silver, not just our treasures in the temple and the things that these heathens took from us, but also us as a people. So this is Joel chapter 3. And verse 6. It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So just going back to that verse 4, that Amos 1, 9 through 11. These fucking Hamites gave us over unto the Edomites, because these Grecians talk about Esau, Edom. So we were sold to our enemies. Behold, I will raise them up. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whether ye have sold them, and will return the recompense upon their own head. And I got scriptures for that. This Baruch. Matter of fact, I'll hit Isaiah first. I can hit this Isaiah first. This Isaiah chapter 52 in verse 1. It says, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. So we shaking ourselves from the dust, from that confused state, from that dead state that we was in. So the Lord is waking us up through this knowledge, once again, through the prophets. And that's how it's starting. This is Baruch chapter 2 and verse 30. It says, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, because, 2/3 of our people here in America and the rebels, wherever they may be scattered or wherever they may be, are stiff-necked. They not hearkening unto the voice of the Lord. So it says, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivity, in their captivities, they shall remember themselves. The remnant that's going to return. So we remembering ourselves in the land of our captivity. So this is the Lord turning us back. Like it says in that Joel 3:1, the Lord is turning us back from captivity. And once again, that's going to go into the Lord physically bringing us into our land. But it's starting with us waking up, knowing who we are. We're shaking ourselves from the dust, from that confused state that we was once in. We was once dead, but now we're alive. The Lord has made us of a quickening spirit. So it says, verse 31, and shall know that I am the Lord their power, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear. And they shall praise me in the land of their captivities and think upon my name, showing you that we got the name. In return from their stiff neck, who the most hard-headed people on the planet? It says, but the remnant is the one that's going to return from their stiff neck, from their iniquity, and come back to the Lord. And from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers which sinned before the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and I will bring them again into the land which I promised, like we just read, the captive. I got to go back and get it real fast. I'm going to come back to that. Jeremiah 30. Deliverance from captivity promise, right? So it says in this Baruch chapter 2 and verse 34, and I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they shall be lords of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their power. This ain't talking about everybody. It's talking about those that was under the covenant. It's talking about the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, not everybody. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their power, and they shall be my people. And I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them. Like we read in that Deuteronomy, that do the transatlantic slave trade, etc. Us going to captivity after captivity, the Lord not gonna do that no more. This is us speaking comfortably unto our people. This the last time. So the Lord gonna put His laws, such commitments in our inward parts to where we're gonna reign forever. We're gonna live with our Lord and Savior. So these are beautiful times that we're living in, because we living and seeing the fall of our enemies right before our eyes. So back in Joel, chapter 3 and verse 7, it says, so behold, I will raise them out of the place where ye have sold them, and will return their recompense upon their own head. And I will sell their sons and their daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians. When you go into the word Sabians, it's it's talking about the Arabs, the Arabs. So, but it's based all these all these nations and heathens is gonna go into captivity. It says to a people far off, for Yahweh has spoken it. And one of the go-to Revelation chapter 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So this is what we patiently waiting on. Because we was in captivity. Now these nations going to be in captivity. They killed with the sword. They going to be killed with the sword. So we going to shift their ass off. Like they did us. We going to put their ass on slave routes. Like they did us. And we going to do it in righteousness. This Joel chapter 3. In verse 8 it says, and I will sell. Matter of fact, I had another one. Yup, let me read that again. This Joel chapter 3 and verse 8. Behold, I will raise them out of the place where ye have sold them, and will return their recompense upon their own head. That's verse 7. Verse 8, and I will sell your sons and daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahweh has spoken it. And now this Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. It says, and Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. So now it's going to be returned upon their own head. Since they did it unto us, we going to do it unto them. And it's all through the Lord's will. It's all his plan. And it's beautiful. So back in Joel chapter 3 and verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And this is what the Lord is doing. He's gathering them over into the Persian Gulf to judge them. You know, I'm going to grab this as well. This Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, right? The World War II is past. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. World War III. Woe means destruction. So World War III is on the rise. And that's in the talks in the world today. World War III. This is all the Lord's plan. So the Lord, let me see. Verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. You know, you got the Gentiles, or the Israelite foreigners. And then you got the actual Gentiles, which is the nations. The heathen. This is talking about the heathen. Shalom.